Ryan's point of view. I do a part-time job at my best friend's aunt's shop. I watched in misery as another group of teens came bursting through the doors of Sugar Shake. Where do they keep coming from? I grumbled, complaining to my co-worker Ben. I looked at Ben, whose eyes were sparkling with amusement, probably internally laughing at my misery. He knew how much I hated serving large groups of children. Don't worry, Vayani, I got this table. You don't have to suffer, he said with a laugh. I then heard the door of the shop open once again. My heart dropped as I recognized that it was my high school society. The last thing I wanted after such a long shift was to converse with some jocks from my school. Great, I have to serve this stupid table. Hey, look Ryan, it's your boyfriend, May, my best friend said as she was gesturing to someone at the door. My eyes widened in horror as my eyes landed on a certain person standing at the door. It was Jungkook. He is most certainly not my boyfriend. The mere thought of even touching him had me wanting to hurl up violently in a toilet. He was my supreme enemy and I hated every fiber of his body with a burning passion. Why, you may ask? Because for the last 6 years, the guy had been determined to make my life a living hell. I could barely think of a day that's gone by at school where he hasn't tried to humiliate me in some way or another. I have no idea what I have done to bring out such behavior in him because as far as I'm concerned, he doesn't treat anyone else at school in the same way, only me. He was also annoyingly good at everything, and I mean everything. Sports, academics, socializing, dancing, popularity, literally anything. Your table. Ben sang loudly, making me jump in surprise. She's a little preoccupied gawking at her little boy toy, May teased with a knowing smile on her face. Shut up, May. I was clearly glaring at him. Whatever you say, she said, seemingly unconvinced. Hey guys, welcome to Sugar Shake. Can I interest you in anything to eat or drink? I said in an overly chirpy voice as I approached their table. All 3 pairs of eyes snapped towards me and I shifted nervously on my feet, feeling quite intimidated under their gaze. As much as I fought myself not to, my eyes drifted over to Jungkook's. He was looking at me with a mischievous glimmer in his eyes, almost as a promise of trouble. What if it isn't Chubbs? He said in amusement. Chubbs was an awful nickname he persisted in calling me since he claimed I had the face of an infant. I didn't know they let 12 years old work here. I took a deep breath in and out as I tried to suppress the urge to strangle him. He had been teasing me for years about my baby face, constantly telling me I have freakishly big doe eyes and a ridiculously round face. Not this again, Jimin groaned, clearly sensing a potential argument was about to spill over. Jungkook was still looking at me expectantly, waiting for me to answer his stupid question. Why, are you thinking about applying? I replied back smoothly. This caused the smirk on his face to drop and his friends to start hooting with laughter, clearly getting a kick out of seeing him insulted. This seems to shut him up for a bit, long enough for me to quickly take down their orders. Once I had made up their orders, I proceeded to make my way back to the table. I handed out their orders with haste so I could speed my way out of there to freedom. But as I turned to leave, I was stopped, feeling a large warm hand wrap itself around my wrist. Turning around, I saw the hand belonged to none other than Jungkook. What? I snapped. Mine is cold, he said, looking up at me with a straight face. I looked at him, then his ice cream, then at him and then his ice cream. Hang on a second, I said, completely stunned. Are you seriously asking me why your ice cream is cold? I said, bewildered by his stupidity. Chubbs, you shouldn't swear at the customer. Not very professional at all. It would be a real shame if I had to complain about this to your manager. This little guy did it on purpose. He knows I have a problem controlling my language, especially when provoked with stupidity. Oh, and isn't that manager over there? He said casually as he gestured to someone behind me. I felt the blood slowly drain from my face as I realized he could easily get me fired. Come on, don't be a bad guy just this once, I whined, looking at him with desperation in my eyes. Jungkook just gave me an evil look before getting up off his seat and starting to make his way over to my manager, whose back was still to us. Excuse? Was all Jungkook got out before I pulled him back by his shirt and slapped my hand over his mouth. He looked at me in surprise, clearly not expecting me to do that. His eyes lit up in amusement before he did something extremely disgusting and proceeded to lick my palm. I jerked my hand away as quickly as lightning. Ew, you're nasty! I probably have herbs now. Thanks a lot. I whined as I vigorously started to wipe my hand on his shirt, desperate to remove his saliva from my hand. Fine, you win, Jungkook. What do you want? His eyes sparkled with amusement. Why do you assume I want something? He smirked. He chuckled lowly. Okay, you got me. I do want something, he said with a laugh. Which is? I snapped impatiently. He smirked at me before taking one large step closer to me. I was leaning against the wall, so I couldn't do anything. I looked at him with furrowed eyebrows as his eyes slowly took the time to scan over every inch of my face before pausing on my lips. I swallowed nervously, not sure what was going on. His eyes snapped back to meet mine. A kiss, he whispered. My eyes bulged out of their sockets in complete shock, not believing what had just come out of my arch enemy's mouth. He seriously wanted to do it? This was too weird. I narrowed my eyes in suspicion, wondering if this was some kind of a joke. But he was looking at me with a deadly serious expression on his face. I shifted nervously in my place as silence filled the air. Suddenly, he could no longer control himself and he was completely exploding into a fit of laughter. Oh my god, he let out, barely containing his laugh. I can't believe you actually thought I was going to do you? That was way too much fun. I just watched him, not amused in the slightest by his little performance. Thank God, because I was seconds away from vomiting over your face if you got any closer. I snapped back. His eyes sparkled with glee as I said that, and he leaned in closer, so he was invading my personal space once again. I hated how good he smelled. It gave him an extremely unfair advantage. Look, Ryan, we both know you're attracted to me. Just admit it, he said with an arrogant smirk. I found my eyes subconsciously dropping to check him out, not being able to resist a quick peek with him this close. My eyes are up here, Chubbs, he teased, snapping me out of my little visual excursion. I coughed awkwardly as I tried to clear my mind again and compose myself. I was just wondering when you were going to stop shopping in the women's section and buy a top that can fit you for a change, I said sassily as I looked him up and down judgmentally. I think someone clearly wants to get fired today, he said before spinning around on his feet and heading straight in the direction of my manager. My eyes bulged out of their sockets in panic as I quickly ran after him and grabbed him before he could get too far. Okay, I'm sorry, I take it back, I muttered in defeat. His smirk seemed to arrive back on his face as easily it had left. I think your apology could be better than that, don't you think? Jungkook said with a mischievous look. I want you to say that you think I'm a hot beast who has the body of a Greek god, he demanded, looking at me with an entirely serious expression on his face. No way, I said. There was no way I was saying that. I had pride. Well, I hope this job is not important to you, Chubbs. Okay, fine. You're not super ugly. You can't seriously think I'm going to let you get away with that, right? He said with a chuckle. I haven't got all day, Chubbs, Jungkook said, tapping on his watch impatiently. Fine. You're a hot base who has the body of a Greek god, I rambled out under my breath as quickly as humanly possible to preserve my dignity. Sorry, I didn't quite catch that. I said you're a hot beast who has the body of a Greek god, I said clearly this time between gritted teeth. Still can't hear you, speak up, he said with a wide grin on his face. I was officially sick of this guy. If he wanted to see loud, then I'll give him loud. Fine. You're a hot beast who has the body of a Greek god. I yelled at him angrily, completely fed up with him. That's when I heard the entire shop go silent, and I realized I might have been a teeny tiny bit too loud. My face burned hot as I felt a deep blush overtake my entire face. I had even stunned Jungkook, who was staring at me in shock, obviously not expecting me to belt the statement out loud enough for the entire restaurant to hear. I felt my heart drop as I realized the entire shop was looking at me. I heard you this time, he whispered in my ear before giving me a double pat on my shoulder and making his way back to the booth. My friends looked like they were trying to control the urge to laugh. I hate you guys, I mumbled, knowing they were going to tease me for this. May finally let out a snort of laughter. I have to say, Ryan, that flirting technique was a little bold even for you, May said with a laugh. Ryan, could you refrain from flirting with your boyfriend in the middle of your shift? My manager said casually, not seem too upset by my actions. On my route out, I couldn't resist giving Jungkook a final glare. He was already looking my way, and when we made eye contact, he dared to wink at me. What a guy! Next day at the school cafeteria, finished with my apple, I pulled out my chocolate chip muffin. I needed its comfort after such a miserable start to the week. Just as I was about to bite into the chocolatey goodness, I stopped, feeling a tap on my shoulder. John Jungkook had come for round 2 of tormenting me. What do you want now? He just let out a low chuckle before lunging over my shoulder and wrapping his hands around my muffin. Hey! I yelled angrily. He just smirked at me before proceeding to take a humongous bite out of my muffin as I watched in horror. He then dumped it rudely back on the table in front of me. That was delicious, he said with a moan as he wiped the crumbs away from his mouth. I just gaped at him, my mouth hanging wide open in shock. I would close my mouth if I were you, chaps. Wouldn't want me to get the wrong idea, would you? He said with a wink. My eyes widened as I realized what he was implying, and I snapped my mouth closed. See you around, he said with a laugh and started to make his way over to his normal table. I slowly turned back around to face May and Chloe. They both had nervous expressions on their faces, knowing how much I hated when other people helped themselves to my food. At least he was thoughtful enough to leave you some, Chloe said weakly, trying to spin some optimism on the situation. I shot her a murderous look, angry that she was trying to stick up for Jungkook in any shape or form. He's so dead. He had taken things too far. He could humiliate me all he wanted, but he could not, and I could not stress this enough, could not get away with tampering with my food. Without a second thought, I snatched the muffin and jumped to my feet. I then swung my arm back and launched it across the cafeteria, watching as it headed towards my prime target, Jungkook's face. It didn't hit him. It wasn't even close. It landed pathetically on the floor, a considerable distance away from him. What made it worse was that Jungkook saw my failed attempt and started to laugh, clearly amused by my lack of aim. I just slumped back down on my chair in defeat. After the class, anyways, it was over now and I was finally free. Opening my phone, I found a message from Chloe saying, I'm so sorry, Ryan, but you're going to have to find another way home because I have to pick up my little brother. What am I supposed to do now? I didn't have a car or a driving license. I realized I would just have to suck it up and take the long 30-minute walk home. I started typing out a reply to Chloe. Looking up, my heart skipped a beat as I saw a black Mercedes heading straight in my direction. It slowed down and came to an abrupt stop before it could hit me. I narrowed my eyes, recognizing the car. It was Jungkook's. The window rolled down and revealed Jungkook, who was looking at me with a smug expression on his face. Is this your final attempt at torturing me to kill me once and for all? You're so dramatic. I wasn't even close to hitting you. Are you thick or something? I was this close to being hit by your stupid car. I said, gesturing with my finger. It's not my fault you were texting. He snapped back. Jimin, who I had barely noticed until now, was in the passenger seat and decided to pitch in. Enough bickering in fans, can't you see? It's time for my after-school nap. We both turned to look at Jimin. He had a weird cat-eye mask resting on his forehead. He was wearing a onesie that he must have changed into while in the car. Jungkook's cheeks went slightly red as he glanced over at Jimin in embarrassment. It was nice to see him embarrassed for a change. Unfortunately, it only lasted for about a fraction of a second before his face morphed back into its normal state of smugness. Hey, are you walking home, chaps? I could give you a lift if you like, he said, smiling sweetly. I was incredibly confused as this was very out of character from him. Normally, I would have flat out refused to spend any more time that was necessary with him, but I could feel the painful weight of my backpack digging into my spine, making his offer far too tempting to give up. Sure, thanks, I said with a grateful smile. No problem, he said, looking at me with a warm smile. Just as I was about to reach for the handle on the backseat of his car, it slipped away from me as the car went speeding off. I watched the car leave, my mouth hanging open in shock. I was such an idiot. I should have known he was going to do that. At home. I'm bored, I whined. Why don't we do dares? May said, looking at us with a mischievous twinkle in her eyes. Normally, I would have shut her down almost immediately. But I had reached a new level of boredom and I was willing to give her game a shot. May smirked as I nodded my head. We all proceeded to get in a circle and I grabbed a water bottle, placing it in the middle of our circle. May spun the bottle and we watched it was pointing at me. May seemed very happy with the bottle's decision. I suddenly had regrets about deciding to play this game. I forgot how crazy May's dares could be. Let me think. Her eyes suddenly lit up as an idea sprung to mind. I dare you to sneak into Jungkook's house and steal one of his hoodies. May said boldly with an evil grin on her face. The room went utterly silent. I patiently waited for May to burst out laughing and admit that she was joking. But that was not the case as she continued to stare at me expectantly. Realizing she was being serious, I widened my eyes. What? You can't be serious. I'm pretty sure that it's illegal, May. Are you insane? I said, my eyes drifting over to Chloe in desperation, hoping she would back me up. I don't know, Ryan. It might be a good idea. Think about it. The dude had publicly embarrassed you 3 times in the span of 48 hours. You had been mourning about all night. He kind of deserves it, don't you think? Chloe said with a deadly serious expression on her face. Chloe did have a point. He deserved it, and it's not like he would ever have to know about it. It's like 1 a.m. in the morning. He'll be fast asleep. I am in, I said with a grin. In front of Jungkook's home. I am out, I said, ready to head back towards Chloe's car. Hold on, Ryan. You can't boss out now. Remember why you're doing this? Revenge, Ryan. Sweet, sweet revenge. She's right. He need to pay. I looked up at the humongous house in which slept Satan, or as he is commonly referred to as John Jungkook. I tried to not let the jealous suffocate me as my eyes scanned over his monster of a house. He had a waterfall outside his house for Christ's sake. Just because the spoiled brat's mother was a lawyer, the little thing got everything. For the next part, please subscribe this channel. Have a great day, dear ones. Bye.